Hello, audience. You're listening to the Breadcrumbs to Passion podcast, where we give you the breadcrumbs to your passion by inspiring you with deeper and connected conversations for you to have fun and live wholeheartedly.
Hi, I'm Amanda Giebel.
And I'm Jason French, your host of the Breadcrumbs to Passion podcast.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in today. Episode number 7, Self-Judgment.
Hi, Amanda. It's so good to be here talking about this subject this week. I think it's been a fun topic, but also quite a serious topic for a lot of people, because I find that a lot of people don't realize how much they judge themselves because they're too busy judging others. So when they're judging others, they're not really looking at how self-judgmental they really are on themselves.
Yeah, well, it's so easy to deflect on another rather than take that responsibility and have a look at yourself. And I think that's where where the hard part comes in.
Absolutely. So I want to look into that. Why do you think people really do judge themselves?
Again, it's one of those hard topics, isn't it? Like to come back to yourself and recognize, like, what am I actually saying? Because sometimes we can say things, but we're not even sure, or we don't even realize the context behind what we're actually saying. So then it becomes easier to see something not right in someone else, because then we don't have to deal with what's going on with ourselves.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people struggle with this particular area, especially is because it does come from that inferiority complex within themselves. And usually that's come back down to, childhood conditioning. I mean, if you think about it, we're always in comparison from the moment where, we're born of, you should be this, or when you grow up, you're going to be this, or you're going to be that, or you're not as smart as my kid, or that kid's not smart. And then you go to school and you've got to put your hand up for permission. And then if you don't get permission to be able to, it just becomes this spiral of continual conditions, basically, of learning about who are you kind of thing through the whole process. And I can see why a lot of people are too busy trying to fight other people through that whole process, that they don't see how self-judgmental they've really been on themselves. Like if it's a measurement stick, basically, isn't it? Is what I think why people judge themselves, is they're measuring up against each other or other people.
Yeah, exactly. And the childhood experiences that we have, it's like you said, that it's like winning a race, winning a race against someone else. Who is that better person? What can my child do better? We do this at home and we do that at home. And, then you start thinking, oh, well, we don't do that, so maybe we should.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a difference between being inspired by different people and then being like, oh, you don't do that? Like it's there's a different effect, I think, comes through that. Like, oh, you don't have a normal job? No, I don't actually. No, I don't go to 9 to 5. Oh, and then you can sit in that self-judgment. Oh God, I'm not a decent citizen in the world because of the fact that I don't have a 9 to 5 job. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then at the same time, you go and work in a 9 to 5 job, and you go, why am I doing this? Like, you go into that judgment of like, oh, what? Am I just like everybody else that has to, turn up and show up and, be paid misery? You know what I mean? Like, it's so much miserable stuff that actually comes internal towards us, that we start judging, thinking that we need to be miserable. How could you ever have happiness? Like, who are you to even consider the fact that you think you should be happy? Yeah, especially with yourself.
It's that's funny you said that, because my son, my big boy, said to me one day, are you ever going to get a normal job? I'm like, excuse me? You don't think I work? You just think I sit at home all day just chilling?
Just chilling. And it is interesting when you come from that place of doing something different to what most people do. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't go anywhere, is because they're too busy judging themselves, because they're comparing themselves to other people or other situations or other dynamics, etc., and they don't think that they're actually got anything to offer, so it's best to stay in that place of misery and then just criticize and be abusive to other people that are prepared to do something different. So it's a really big topic. When do you think that self-judgment really comes into play for people?
Well, as we said, it starts from childhood, but we don't understand these things until later on in life, where we start, patterns keep evolving in what we do and how we show up, and then that questioning comes in. But before that, it's just like it's on autopilot, like you're just doing stuff or you're reacting in a way because that's all you know. You don't know any better. So then we say that's through high school, but then, as you become an adult, and then you automatically get this questioning of, why does this keep happening? And then you're like, yep, no, I'm good. And then you notice another cycle that's exactly the same. And you're like, okay, clearly didn't learn my lesson about that one. Let's just go again.
And this is a great point that you actually bring up. When it comes to that point, someone can actually go into that place of judging because they haven't learned the lesson.
Yeah.
As opposed to seeing rather than judging it, using your discernment. And this is a really powerful trick for a lot of people. I know we were talking about this earlier, of like, I was a massive judgy pants on myself. And the thing that I learned through this is when I let go of self-judgment and allowed myself to, number one, make mistakes, and number two, acknowledge, that nothing's ever perfect. And the third thing of that lesson was then, well, what am I learning out of this? So rather than judge it, use my discernment and go, okay, if I was to do it differently, what would that look like? Yeah. I know, even like we come both from a personal training background. So it's like you'll see that inner critic in a client when they fail at something, as opposed to going, oh, great, I've got more muscle to build here, or I've got to, use more breath work here, or I've got to do this, or I've got to do that. It's going to actually improve me, other than use your discernment of what is it showing up for you to improve in some aspect of your life. Like it's a really powerful place to be.
Yeah, and I guess for our listeners, if you're having a general conversation and you feel like a little bit triggered around something, and you start judging those thoughts, bring it back to yourself. Bring it back and say, okay, what's this trying to teach me? Why is this triggering me so much? And underneath that is usually the answer. And once you've learned that lesson, then you can move on.
Yeah, I always say we have to find love for everything. So until you can learn to love the fact that you did fail at that, or until you learn to love the fact that you did make a wrong decision, or till you learn the fact
a couple of decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Like until you learn to love the fact that that actually taught you this, or it taught you that, you'll always stay in judgment of yourself. Like when you can come to that place of acceptance, and as we were saying before, it comes through that place of acknowledgement. When we can come into that place of self-acknowledgement, that's when we know that we are going to shift self-judgment.
Yeah, I think exactly. It's taking that responsibility where, you really know that you've done some inner work when you can look at things and take that responsibility back on yourself rather than putting that blame on someone else. I think just going back, like years back in relationships or whatever, it's very easy. Well, he or she didn't do that. Well, why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they doing this? Hey, hey, why aren't you doing that?
Yeah. I think around that particular area for me, the thing that I learned so much about it is it wasn't actually necessarily what they weren't doing. It's more the fact that it wasn't obviously a match there. Like it's more, and I was trying to hold on to something for some other reason, like, as opposed to allowing that space to, if you're not actually in alignment and congruent with each other, then it's not gonna, you can force it as much as you can, control it as much as you can, but at the end of the day, it's not real. Like it's got to come to that place of congruency with each other. there's a lot to delve into that around that particular area. But yeah, I find that beforehand, because as far as the relationship stuff goes too, there was another aspect of that, which is comparison comes in. Like there's a social conditioning that you must be, married, kids, doing all that sort of stuff at a certain time, like,
Definitely.
and I've failed all those, and I acknowledge that. Do you know what I mean? And I accept that I'm not that, but at the same time, I haven't had to go through all the other stuff with that,
Hey,
So
guess what? I failed a few times too, but on the other end, done the kids, done the marriage, and I failed too. So it doesn't really matter. But
no, but we learn a lot out of it, don't we?
We've learnt lessons.
We've learned lessons.
We wouldn't be here today trying to explain these type of topics or conversations for others to benefit from if we weren't, critical on ourselves, or we didn't have anything to share. Because
that's exactly right.
We've definitely, experienced a lot to be able to bring what we share to other people.
Absolutely. And so that's where, like we said before, until we learn to love that part of ourselves, then there would be an incongruency. Yeah. So we would be judgy. Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, well, like I can see someone's doing that, and they're like, oh yeah, this is interesting. Like it's interesting. And
I'm like, well, I know I'm a good person. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I agree. And that's what brings up to that whole question of how do we overcome self-judgment? And I really believe the reason why a lot of people don't overcome self-judgment is because they're running in fear of what they would actually see within themselves. Because if you didn't judge yourself, man, you're invincible.
Yeah. I think it's different degrees. There's always something that we're going to be judging ourselves on. Just because we stop judging ourselves on one thing doesn't mean something else is not going to pop up, because that's the lessons, that's the learning that we need to all delve into.
Yeah, that's the process that we need to learn to use your judgy pants and inner critic to be your friend, because through that process you'll get great results, and it's building a relationship. Because I've said this earlier too, it was around the place of people have put so much expectation on what something should be like that it takes away from really what it's meant to be. So it's a challenge. And I think when you can let go of that judgment and use your discernment of going, okay, if this isn't going to work this way, then be adaptable. I like to think of it as like when you're in a room and you've been blindfolded, there's just you in that room and you're blindfolded, and you've got to go through that room and you've got to try and find the exit door.
Yes, actually, that just brought up a point. Watched a movie on the weekend, actually, don't even know what it's called. And this lady was blind, and she had a blind date with a guy that was really stressed, overworked, not taking care of himself. And so the blind lady had a blind date with this guy, and in the end, the guy was like, he did some things wrong, and then in the end he was like, I just want to see things from your point of view. And literally he put a blindfold on and was led by the blind lady, and they went out on an adventure for a whole day, and he was just opened his eyes up to what she saw or didn't see in that regard. But I was just like, that's perfect, because it's everyone doesn't see things from your point of view.
Yeah.
So if you can jump into someone else's shoes and see it from that different side, that's a perfect example. I don't know how well I would do blindfolded going around a whole day, we're so used to doing what we know. So it's very...
Yeah, that's trying to fit into that box, that belonging box. Really think, and until you, like I say, until you're in that room blindfolded and listening to your own self, to what is actually meant for you, then I think that a lot of people will let go of a lot of self-judgment. It's especially right now, people are feeling so judged because of the fact that they're wanting to make choices that are for themselves, choices that are really important for them. It doesn't mean to say it's not the choice that someone else makes isn't the right choice for them. It's more the fact of it's tuning in. Is this your choice, or is this conditioning? Is this, and I think that's where a lot of people go into this other part of self-judgment, which is really powerful for people to understand. While you're judging another, there's something that you're not comfortable in the choices you're making for yourself. And, I love the fact that I have that confidence to be able to, and trust within myself today, where I can actually do that. I can make a choice that's true for me. And I'm okay with whatever's other people's perspectives, because at the end of the day, that's for them.
Yeah.
Because I knew when I was doing it for somebody else, I was resentful, I was angry, and I was more judgmental than ever, because I knew that I was giving my power away in those scenarios, because it wasn't coming from my own truth. And so self-judgment is playing a lot of havoc at the moment on a lot of people, hence why they're judging others.
Yeah, well, I just think the more you know about yourself, the less judgy you're going to be as well.
Absolutely. So I shared this earlier with you before, is a game that I like to play with clients over time is when they're so self-righteous about certain things and judgy. I like to play the game of who says. And so what I want to do is, with self-judgment, usually the first thing that comes up with people is they usually go, well, who do you think you are to be like this person? Who do you think you are to be out there as a speaker? Or who do you think you're to be an author? Or who do you think you are to be able to help anybody when you haven't helped yourself? Who do you think, all that sort of stuff that people say. Okay, so my question to you, what's that? Yeah, who do I think I am? Who do I think I am for sharing this information?
That's right.
And my question is, who says I'm not?
Who says you are?
Well, I say I am, and I think that's what's really important. And that's where you let go of self-judgment, is when you can say I rather than something external from you. So don't write my name, but at the end of the day, like, who says that you can be this person? Or who says that you should judge yourself? Who says you can't use your discernment? Who says that, you're not good enough? Who says that you don't have this incredible talent or ability or something within you that can make a change in the world? Who says that you don't have that?
Okay, we get the
picture. Well, tell me, who says that you get the picture?
We get it.
Who says you get the picture? Who says? So if you're in that place of wanting to judge yourself, whatever the judgment is, go to that place. Well, who says whatever the judgment is?
Yeah, and everyone has free will. So that's what I think we have to remember, is that everyone has free will to make our own decisions, our own choices.
Yeah.
The problem is we've been so manipulated by society and by these hierarchies that are thinking they have all the answers. When
actually it's all an experiment.
It's all an experiment, and it's all people thinking that that's the only way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, and an experiment is, if you look at us as kids when we're growing up and you go through the different stages, what did you do? You're exploring. So what makes you think that people in different industries aren't exploring as well at your expense? So you can be a part of that exploration by all means, because you can innovate and change. That's your choice. But at the end of the day, it's just going into that place of not judging yourself, but coming back into what is actually true for you. If it's true for you, you do what's true for you. But if you're doing it out of criticism or judgment or anything outside of you, then it's a different story. So it comes to that question of, how could we help our listeners today with your tips?
We have 7 tips.
Yeah, so what are the 7 tips that you come up with?
All right, number 1, get comfortable with your emotions.
Yeah.
So, emotions will come up. It doesn't matter what they are. If that's anger at some point, well, that's okay. Sit with it. Because again, there's something underneath that anger. Why? Why it's happening? And if you don't understand why, well, then we can't make improvements to flip that into happiness.
Beautiful.
Number 2, look at the situation as an outsider. So we did mention that one before, stepping into someone else's shoes. So blindfolded blindfolded man to jump into the actual blind lady's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, number 3, practice mindfulness. So again, coming back to what feels good for you, and when you are being mindful or being quiet, that's the place where you can understand from that point of view of, okay, does this actually feel good for me?
Beautiful.
Number 4, realize that your feelings exist for a reason. So I think that ties back into, like getting comfortable with those emotions. So yeah, feelings, they do come up. There's things that are going to trigger. There's things that maybe you haven't worked through yet, that it's just showing you, okay, there's a little bit more work to do.
Absolutely.
Number 5, be the friend you wish you had. So I think you mentioned that before.
Yeah, the critic, it's all that self-judgment, like if you're judging yourself, maybe there's a part of you that you're holding yourself back in, that you need to maybe look at and step forward into.
Yeah. And 6, take an inventory of toxic people in your life. Because again, people that haven't done a lot of work and that are very judgy, it's very easy to be around those people and get dragged into that toxicity.
Absolutely.
So knowing who you are and just knowing that your friend circle, if you can feel that judgment, well then, put that question back on them. Hey, why are you judging this person? What's going on there?
Who says they're not doing it the right way?
Yes. And number 7, add a new thought to the mix. So change the way you think, change your friend circle, change what feels good to you. That's what like if you're in fear of something that's happening in society, come back to yourself. Hey, is this really good for me? Do I really feel like I should do this or I should do that?
And I think the thing that's beautiful about that is, like, I think you sort of shared something around that before, around that allowing yourself that space. Do you know what I mean? Like if there's a point where you don't feel drawn to either, like it's like it might be, come back once again to you. Like it may not be something that is right for you right now, but down the track it may be. Like it's a big thing as far as, like, I'm not talking about what's happening at the moment. I'm talking about anything.
Yeah.
So what may not be for you right now doesn't mean to say it's not forever. It's just simply.
Yeah, that's right. It's being present, mindfulness, being present in the moment. Okay, like what is feeling good right now?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that really rounds up today's topic around self-judgment. If you do have any questions, by all means, please put it into the comments below. Or, by all means, give us a review on the podcast. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And we will look forward to sharing with you next week on another topic that just could excite you in having more fun and living wholeheartedly. So who knows? All these little hints and tips, like we said before, are experiences that we have gone through, have overcome, or currently going through that phase as well, that we like to share, so that you can be a part of that journey, because we believe that we're all in this together. So what you're experiencing or we're experiencing is going to be clues to bringing a more harmonious world out there, and help the planet grow and evolve to much greater scales than we possibly could have ever imagined. So hope you have an amazing day.
Yeah. expand your light, love, and brighten the world with your happiness, joy, and excitement.
I'm just going to keep it clear. Be brave and be the change.
Look, I have to come up with something new each week. I don't know.
I know you do.
I just don't like the whole one word thing that defines.
No, I understand. You don't, like I totally get it.
You do you, I do you, me.
You do you, I do you. That's right, great. Anyway, we're going to leave it on that note, and we look forward to talking to you all very, very soon. Bye for now.
Bye. The information contained in this presentation is of a general nature and based on presenters' personal experiences. It does not constitute specific advice. Always seek individual expert opinion to help with your specific needs and situation.